Birds flying high, you know how I feel. Sun in the sky, you know how I feel. Breeze drifting on by, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me, yeah. And I'm feeling good. Fish in the sea, you know how I feel. River running free, you know how I feel. Blossom on the tree, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me. I'm feeling good.
Another Monday, another day of Alpha Touring Challenge racing. Welcome to Donington Park, where we are hosting the 8th round of Season 12. 6 rounds to go, including this one, so we're starting the back half of the season today. Michael Polasek holds a pretty sizable lead in the Alpha and Overall Championship, and Spencer Clark has opened up a bit of a lead over his Delta class rivals after a sweep of both races last time out at Road Atlanta. Donington Park, 3.6 kilometers long, a classic touring car track, and we have 28 ready to grid today. They are currently running qualifying out laps, and that is the Delta class that is out there right now. With it being an endurance challenge, qualifying is open and split, and you see Mitchell Rickmeyer has led the field out for the start of open qualifying. And Rickmeyer is followed by the 30 of Brian Son back there, but leading the whole field actually is Evan Clavijo. Clavijo coming out onto the backstretch now. This is the national layout, so instead of 2 hairpins at the end of the track, it's just one fast chicane where you have to really clobber this curb. You see Clavijo, yep, he hits the first curb. You kind of want to avoid the second one, but the first curb you really got to get over. So he'll come across the line and set our first couple of laps here. And looks like Nicholas Bonvinci is the fastest around the first time around the track. We have Mikulicek, Zachary Bowman, Alrijla, Brian Son, P5. Spencer Clark, last week's double winner, is sitting P8. And Lewis Gilbert just logged a lap, but then had to go back to the pits. Clavijo, his lap time did not count, so he's going again. Now, the Delta drivers, they can qualify until halfway through the session, 15-minute session. So the 7.5-minute mark is when these guys have to hop off the road and make way for the Alpha drivers. And now through the final chicane again comes Clavijo, and the SRG driver is going to cross the line. And he's going to do a 1:13.6. That puts him 5th in class. Rickmeyer will improve to a 13.9. Son with a 13.5. And then Fuad Rijla goes on pole, but only for a moment because he's quickly followed by Spencer Clark, who does a 12.8. Bonvicini does a similar 12.8, but just a half-tenth off of Spencer Clark and not able to knock him off pole. And then he goes wide in turn 1, so he will only get one more lap after this, I think, to try and improve on that. So now we look to see if anybody can get an improvement. Clavijo, Son, and Alrijla, they are all improving through this first sector. The Delta field's a little small today, so big points on offer for the drivers that are here. Usually it's the Delta field that is larger than the Alpha field. So if this trend holds, this could help some of these guys out as others proceed to take drop weeks. Across the line, Evan Clavijo trying to improve out of P8. He has a 13.6 right now, and he goes pole 12.7. So what now from Spencer Clark, from Nicholas Bonvicini? Well, he's not on the lap, so we'll see what Clark does. Clark goes pole. The car ahead of him, Paul was on pole for a split second, and then Clark took it from him. So they go 1-2. Clark getting a little slipstream from Mikulicek on that final run. They do get, it looks like they're going to get 2 more laps. These are short laps, so everyone here is going to get at least 2 more. And the Alpha drivers are now beginning to stack up in pit lane as they anticipate the switchover. Clavijo's gone purple in Sector 1, green in Sector 2. We'll go on board with him through the last chicane. It's a downhill braking zone too, so really tough to get the entry right. That seemed like a pretty good angle. So here he comes across the line. And he may get 2 more laps after this, at least 1. He does a 12.59. That puts him 2nd place. Then Brian Son's going to improve to 5th. Fuad Rijla is 4th. And then here comes Paul. He is not going to improve on this lap. And for a lot of these drivers, this will be their final time around the circuit. And you could see there the majority of we have a few drivers waiting to exit. Clavijo and Alrijla are slow in their Sector 1s on this lap. But Mikulicek is on an improvement. But he goes wide, and that's going to invalidate the lap, and he'll park it after that. So we'll jump to Spencer Clark. He's on pole. He's not improving. Clavijo is approaching the line. It's going to be close whether or not Clavijo gets across the line before the checkered flag. He may get yet another lap. He's already done 4. This will be his 5th. And everyone behind him will be getting the checkered flag. And I'm not sure if he got the checkered flag or not, but all the Alpha drivers are going now behind him. And so we wait to see who will get Delta pole. Bowman across the line. Clark will not improve, so here comes Bowman. He does not improve. Fuad Rijla jumps to 4th, 12.6. Bonvicini improves, but not his position. Lewis Gilbert jumps to 2nd place the last second, slots himself in between Clavijo and Clark. And now, we look at the Alpha class. McKenzie led the group out of pit lane. I think Clavijo did get another lap started, but he is not currently on an improvement. Looks like you have McKenzie, Mitchell, Mayer, and Fabi. That's the group that's just departed pit lane and is leading everyone. Clavijo is about to hit the start-finish line for the final time. He's improved Sector 2. He misses the entry curb there, though, and not improving. He pulls down pit road. So here we go. This is the start of qualifying. McKenzie will lead the field off. Gonzalo Fabi seems like he maybe wants around Mayer, but now they're starting their hot laps. We've got, looks like 17, 18 Alpha drivers in the field today. We do have one very notable missing. Oh, and there, McKenzie's going to invalidate his first lap. Gonzalo Fabi and Matthew Mayer drive off on their first lap. Mayer will tow, and Fabi rejoins. Very interesting stuff going on this first time around. So now Damon Mitchell leads this field. But yeah, very big absence. Michael Polasek not here today, taking his second drop week. This does two things. It means that he has two zeros on the year. He missed 2 races, Indianapolis and this one. So to battle for the championship now, he has to be very careful to not make any huge mistakes, not DNF in a race with a lot of cars, or not make it, halfway through a race and not score any points, stuff like that. He's got to be a bit more careful from here on out. But it means that his rivals, like McKenzie, Hendricks, Fabi, they are. This is a golden opportunity for them. Francois Schink isn't here either. So there's a lot of points, and that also means big points for Delta drivers that get to the end of the race. After the first revolution around the track, John Lazan is your current provisional pole sitter with a 12.3. But those times are still basically dead even with Delta times. So I expect to see some pretty big improvements on this lap. McKenzie's just gone purple in Sector 2. He's following Damon Mitchell, maybe a little bit of a slipstream. 4 minutes to go in qualifying. The lap times are only just over a minute, so these guys are getting a lot of laps compared to usual. Usually they only get 2 or 3 flying laps in qualifying. This time they're getting 5 at least. McKenzie goes up to the top with a 12.06, and Fabi just ekes him out with a 0.3, and then James Carr with an 11.9 gets on the pole, showing some of that latent pace. And Lazan does a 12.1, so the top 4 are very tightly covered. Hendricks goes P5. And Ian Bertolucci will improve. That sends him up to P8. Now Matt Zepka, he has not set a representative lap time yet. Neither has Matthew Mayer, and neither has Damon Mitchell. They will be the next 3 cars across. Zepka P5, Mayer P18. But I think he's 1 lap behind. I think he towed after the incident with Fabi. So we'll wait on that. Here come Mitchell and McKenzie. The 27 car is currently sitting on a 13.1. Needs a better banker lap at the very least. And he'll get a 12.8. So improves to 21st. McKenzie, no improvement on that lap. Gonzalo Fabi goes purple in Sector 1 and purple in Sector 3, and he takes provisional pole with an 11.8, and that is a scorcher. David Thomas improves in the first and third sectors and jumps to P6. Castillo is up to 13th. And now Micah Hendricks takes pole from Gonzalo Fabi with an 11.7. They just keep leapfrogging each other. Ian Bertolucci comes back across the line and slots into ninth with a 12.3. Here comes Matthew Mayer with maybe a lap that will actually be more representative. Out of the chicane, he's getting some slipstream from Matt Zepka, and he gets up to ninth with a 12.3. So we bounce back to the 27. Being tailed by the 01, and they're heading down through the final corner. Mitchell's going to attack this apex with everything he's got. Hits both of the curbs. I don't think that's done him well. McKenzie gained a lot of time on him through there, and Mitchell will not improve his lap time, but McKenzie does, and he does a 7.74, but it's not enough to beat Hendricks. He is just a half tenth off of him, and he pulls off. He's done for the day. And everyone's starting their laps now. They are on their final lap. Sarah Leggy logs an 11.9 dead and slots into P4. Hendricks does a 17.6, not able to improve, but he will get one more lap. Bobby will get one more lap. I assume McKenzie pulled off because Mitchell was directly ahead of him. Zepka, who is already in 7th, is coming across the line with a couple of improvements. He had a 12.2. He ran a 12.3. So stays in 7th. And Connor Acatella, he's currently in 14th. He has a green first sector. Damon Mitchell also green in sector 1. Across the line, Mitchell is going to come as we watch Acatella approach the final chicane. And Mitchell is not improving on this lap either as he pulls into the pits. Carr and Lazon do not improve. Acatella jumps Spencer Clark at the last second, pushing the Delta pole sitter one more spot down. Castillo is green in sector 2. Does improve his time, but not his position. And now Gonzalo Fabi, across the line, did not improve his time. He was purple in sector 1, so it looked for a moment like he'd have a chance to challenge, but no dice. Yeah, there's a couple cars still on track. Matthew Mayer's trying to finish a lap here. He needs to improve by half a tenth to get further up the field, and is not going to happen. So now we look to Damon Mitchell, the last car on track, last man standing. He's down in 23rd. He could use something, anything. 2 tenths would gain him 5 or 6 positions. Through the final corner, he's wide, and that will conclude our qualifying from Donington Park. And we will return shortly for your full starting grid. And we are just about ready to go racing here at Donington Park. Micah Hendricks sitting at the front of the grid. Let's take a look at it. Hendricks on pole, just eking out Logan McKenzie, and then Gonzalo Fabi, all within a tenth of each other. Then it's Sarah Leggy, Lazon, Carr, Zepka, Thomas, Diamita, and Mayer. Then you have Ian Bertolucci, Edward Gorman, Connor Acatella, and your Delta pole sitter, Spencer Clark, is starting 14th. Then you have Castillo 15th, Gilbert and Clavijo 2nd and 3rd in the Delta class. And then you have Mikulicek, Alrijla, Akers, Bonvicini, Darnell, Mitchell, Son Dejoux, Lynn Bowman, and Mitchell Richtmeyer. 28 cars here at Donington Park, and Hendricks disappears off the starting grid right as we're about to go green. Mechanical issues, and it's going to be McKenzie leading us off from Donington Park, and into turn number 1, it'll be Gonzalo Fabi with the inside line. And I think he's going to be able to make this pass. McKenzie's going to try and hold the outside. Very difficult to defend here. The 3 on the inside. Now hold on a minute. This could get dicey into turn 1 through turn 2 at Donington Park. Gonzalo Fabi and Logan McKenzie going side by side. Fabi knows he has the advantage. Hanging it around the outside there. And he is into the lead here at Donington Park. Further back, there was a lot of battling happening. I saw Matthew Mayer going around a couple cars there and up through the hill. we are clean so far. You see Spencer Clark getting elbows out with Ian Bertolucci, and then James Carr and Manuel Saraleghi. They're going side by side, and that's very tight racing. And they're going to continue this all the way down to the first chicane. And Carr's going to let Saraleghi tuck in there, actually. Maybe a wise move. It's an hour-long race with a pit stop. There will be some fuel saving. Now Carr's going to look left. This group losing the leaders, Fabi, McKenzie, Lazan. I think Carr's maybe hoping that they'd be able to keep up if they don't fight. Looking further back, Damon Mitchell on the right side of Fuad Al-Rijla. Into turn 1, he'll take that spot. And Jason Lynn hanging around the outside of Zachary Bowman and Brian Son. I think Bowman's going to be able to make this pass. And he does shut the door. So we'll look back to the front. Mike D'Almeida. He is running in 7th right now, up 2 spots from the start of the race. And the whole field still fairly tightly knit, but a little bit of spreading out beginning to happen. Further back, you see Edward Gorman up the inside of Cooper Acres, and a little bit of contact between Castillo and Clavijo. Castillo trying to make that pass for 16th. And they're going to head down to the chicane, wheel to wheel. And Castillo's going to go heavier on the brakes. And he's going to manage to get that pass done, but Clavijo is not done with him. Looks to the left, heading to turn number 1. Just ahead, it is Edward Gorman making a move on Lewis Gilbert. And Cooper Acres is trying to get in on this as well. Oh, he's just not able to keep a nose in. And behind, Mikulicek gets ahead of Evan Clavijo. Gilbert trying to keep Gorman behind, trying to keep him from getting a nose in there as they come through this part of the track. Now Gorman going up the inside. What a move. And Gilbert's going to go wide, trying to avoid that. And this may end up being a 3-wide situation. Cooper Acres decides to back out of it. Gilbert cut that corner a little. Will he have a slowdown? This is going to get messy. A little bit of contact, and Gilbert sits sideways into the wall head first. And his race is probably over. That is hugely unfortunate for him, especially at Donington Park. And something has happened with Logan McKenzie. He's made a mistake and slipped all the way behind John Lazan. So Gonzalo Fabi is released, and he's going to try and open up a lead here. And meanwhile, you have Lazan ahead of McKenzie, and this could get interesting. You see the lap times, they're doing about a half second slower than they were towards the end of qualifying with their tires warmed up. Delta leader Spencer Clark is sandwiched in between Connor Acatella and Ian Bertolucci, but holds over a 5-second advantage on Paul and Evan back in P2 and P3. So 4 minutes into this race at Donington Park. Quite a lot of time left for these drivers to set up some strategies and get this race going. And Lazan maybe under a little bit of pressure from McKenzie. It'll be interesting to see how this train develops. Usually McKenzie has a little bit of pace on Lazan, but it can be difficult to pass here. So what we could end up seeing is Fabi opening up a big gap while we wait for pit stops, which we won't be seeing first pit stops until after the 30-minute mark. So for now, these drivers are going to be tucking in, and they're going to be in this for the long haul. Fuad Al-Rijla running just behind JB Dejoux. He is 5th place in class. Zachary Bowman's looking to his left, saying that he has something to say about that. But not close enough to make any kind of move. But Jason Lynn and Mitchell Rickmeyer are battling for P8, and Rickmeyer will let Lynn go. Back up to the front of the field, David Thomas trying to hang on to the lead pack of 6 cars. And he's got Mike D'Almeida towed along with him. Akers and Castillo are going wheel to wheel here, and behind them, it's Mikulicek and Clavijo, and Clavijo is going to edge him out. Castillo gets around Akers, Clavijo back around the 70, but maybe an over-under here, and this blimp is really far away. But Paul does get a nose back in. And Evan hangs around the outside. He'll have good momentum down to the chicane. Will Darnell be able to give one of them some help? I don't think so, but down to the corner, they are all right on top of each other. Oh, and Paul's got to cut a lot of it. Clavijo takes a lot of that second apex. Contact, and they're going to go 3 wide down the straightaway. Mark Darnell trying to take advantage of this and get around both of them. Here comes Nicholas Bonvicini following him through. Into turn 1. They are still 3 wide. They're still 3 wide. And only just now they are not. Damon Mitchell's in this group, on board with Bonvicini here as they come down the hill. Darnell on the inside of Clavijo, and now slots in, and these drivers have all done an incredible job of keeping that one clean. No one, there's a lot of room to go off track if you need to give people room. It's an hour-long race, so these guys are not trying to cause too much trouble. But that stacked a lot of cars up. That is 16th all the way down to 24th. They look at on screen. And Mark Darnell is looking for another victim, trying to finish that 3 wide maneuver. Ooh. He makes it look like he's going for a move. Oh, and then gets into the back of the 70 hard. And Paul makes the corner, but that gives Clavijo a huge advantage. And we'll go back to this blimp cam because now more shuffling. Mitchell and Bonvicini go through. Paul gets a shove from Dejoux. Darnell backs out. Clavijo defending from Mitchell. Mitchell gets by everybody. Dejoux and Bonvicini make contact. Mikulicek and Clavijo are still going at it. Clavijo's got to tuck back in, I think. He's going to keep the nose in, actually. And that's a narrower line that Paul has to take through the next corner. This has all allowed Mitchell to escape. This is a lot going on. We'll jump on board with Zachary Bowman, see what his point of view of this mess is. When you're in this, you are fuel saving, looking for an opportunity to steal the spot off the guy ahead of you, and you're just, above all, trying to survive until a later stage of the race, because we aren't even 10 minutes into this race. A lot of time is left. Spencer Clark under pressure from Ian Bertolucci here. Clark is playing with the big boys. He is currently ahead of Ian Bertolucci and Edward Gorman, and Damon Mitchell and Cooper Akers, Castillo, Dejoux, Darnell, like a bunch of alpha drivers that he is running well ahead of. He's knocking on the door of the top 10, but he is slightly off the pace of Mayer and Acatella right now. We look back at the battle for second, or rather these sort of top runners, second, third, fourth, and fifth. All hanging out together. James Carr at the end of that train, he is particularly good at fuel saving, so I wouldn't be surprised to see him sitting back there and developing a strategy for later in the race. Gonzalo Fabi's already opened this gap up to 2.6 seconds, and he does not have a career victory in the Alpha Touring Challenge yet. Despite all his pace, it's taken him a little bit, but this is the best opportunity that he has gotten since the beginning of the season. We're only 10 minutes in, but he needs to keep this clean and he'll have a good shot. Ian Bertolucci up the inside of Clark through turn 1, trying to finish the move on the Delta leader, and this is going to give Bertolucci P11 and license to start hunting down Acatella and Mayer and the rest of the group up ahead. And looks like Paul has come under pressure from Clavijo, and Clavijo's gone around. I also saw what looked like Connor Acatella going off, but it was just a minor off. Sometimes I see those. I'm not sure how severe they are. till we jump over to them. We'll jump over to David Thomas. He is defending against Matthew Mayer. This is for 8th, and Mayer's going to pull up alongside him heading into this final corner. Under braking, and I do think it pays to be the inside car there if you can get the nose ahead. Because in the outside car, they don't know where you are, and you're going through such a narrow corner, it's difficult to make work. Thomas is going to come under serious pressure from Acatella here into turn 1. I think he's going to be able to hold him off and just pulls ahead. McKenzie's lost a little bit of ground on Lazan here at the start of this race. We saw him struggling with the pace a little bit at Road Atlanta. Now here in Donington Park, similar story. Not able to do anything with Lazan, and Sarah Legge and Carr keeping up with him right here. Sarah Legge in particular has had a couple of really good finishes lately. He's on he had 2 back-to-back like fantastic races at Road Atlanta. And he consistently, I think he's just one of the more consistent ATR Argento's drivers. Augustin Fernandez on pace, raw pace, maybe the fastest, but it's probably dead even between him and Sarah Legge in terms of which is the better driver, because Sarah Legge is able to stay out of all kinds of trouble from what we've seen thus far, and at least stay up to the front of these races. Fernandez not here this week. He almost won the second race at Road Atlanta last time, so he had no trouble avoiding the trouble in Braselton, Georgia, but not here today in England. Instead, representing the team is Sarah Legge and Castillo. Look at Gorman and Clark. So Clark has dropped off from Bertolucci quite a bit. Now Gorman next up to try and take that spot from him. But he does have almost a 10-second lead over Evan Clavijo at this point. So that is to say, he's in a very comfortable position. I mean, he's got more than double the lead that Gonzalo Fabi does. And Fabi's lead's looking pretty comfortable right now. Further back in the field, the battle for the Delta podium. There's a lot of cars involved in this. As the race goes on, any of them could end up pipping this one. Bonvicini. Oh, that's another, I don't know how I forgot about Nicholas, another ATR driver, but they do have 3 representatives here today. Bonvicini currently running 4th in the Delta class, but JB Dejoux is going to make a late move on him into the final chicane. Not able to finish the job, but he's set up well for turn 1, and that was a nice late braking maneuver, and he does get fully ahead. I don't think Bonvicini will fight that too much. Fuad Al-Rijla and Mark Darnell stacked up behind. And Al-Rijla finished 3rd in last week's final race at Road Atlanta, so he's trying to build on that momentum for SCRG. We're approaching quarter of the way through this race, so that means about halfway to the first set of pit stops. Maybe give another 5 minutes on top of that. A lot of the drivers right now are probably in a fuel-saving mode. They're taking spots where they can get them, but you don't want to be pushing to battle a lot and lose a ton of time to the people around you. For fear of it just not working out after pit stops. And Mike De Almeida has, I think he was, someone was with, or Mike De Almeida has driven away from Matthew Mayer, I believe, because he was closer to that group. Now he's closer to Matt Zepka. Zepka running 6th. This is the highest he's run in a bit. It's a good day of running for the SIA driver. He is the lead SIA driver on track today. And now this battle for second, I saw some very close margins. I think Carr is testing to see if Sarah Legge is vulnerable at all. McKenzie's closed the gap to Lazan again. And Gonzalo Fabi picked up a slowdown at some point and lost some of his lead. He had a 4-second lead. It dropped back to 2.5 seconds. Clavijo and Damon Mitchell. Mitchell has had to let Clavijo by. I'm not sure Clavio passed him or if Mitchell had a slowdown. But checking sector times, Mitchell was just 6/10 slower, so maybe he made a mistake. Into turn 1. McKenzie feinted a move. Lazon stayed ahead. Lazon and Carr have the benefit of being teammates, so they lead the field and they bring up the rear. So if Carr needs Lazon to pick up the pace a little to keep Zepka off the group, he can do that. If Lazon needs Carr to apply pressure to the back of the group, then he can do that. McKenzie's looking to the right here, and he is going to send it, but thinks better of it. I thought he was putting it up the inside of Lazon there for a moment. He thought about it. And further behind, there's some position swapping. Bonvicini and Mikoshik and Dejoux. For the most part, these guys are all single file. We'll stay up here because I think McKenzie is starting to push Lazon more than he was at the start of the race. I feel like Saraleghi and Carr, if they are fuel saving, they're in a fantastic position. Lazon and McKenzie slightly less so. McKenzie is going to keep a nose in here. But Lazon takes the corner, takes the normal racing line. But McKenzie is definitely testing him. These are the closest battles on track. This and then the battle for P3 in the Delta class. But this is actually also the battle for P18. This is Alpha driver JB Dejoux on the inside of Bonvicini, and Bonvicini gets the over-under on him. But does he have the momentum to keep the nose in? Dejoux on the left. They're going wheel to wheel. They're dead even as they enter the braking zone here. And Bonvicini stays ahead. That is a nice piece of driving. And just ahead, Mitchell continues to hold on to that 15th in Alpha, 16th overall position, just ahead of Clavijo, half second up. And then Lazon and McKenzie are going wheel to wheel into turn 1, and that is Saraleghi just behind. And he'll be looking to follow McKenzie through on Lazon if he can pull this off. And out of turn 1, McKenzie does have the edge, and I think he's going to get it. So now Saraleghi pulls alongside the breakfast for dinner driver. And a little bit of contact. Lazon's going to go off track, and now it's getting dicey. And a massive save. He manages to get back on track ahead of his teammate James Carr behind. Gives Saraleghi a little flash. It's such a small tap. But that's such a dangerous part of the track to have that happen to you in the car. It's completely unweighted. You're going downhill. You're dropping. It's airtime. Further behind, Matt Zepka has caught up to the group a little bit because of that. He's right on the back of James Carr. And you have Mike De Almeida, double yellow driver, trailing a little further back in 7th. He's having a pretty solid season thus far. Another good performance happening right now. Delta leader Spencer Clark is running 13th overall. He's currently keeping pace with Edward Gorman. Very impressive for a Delta driver. Edward Gorman is no slouch when it comes to pace. And he's currently about a half second off of Gorman. 1/3 of the way through this race as we approach the 20-minute mark. David Thomas getting passed by Matthew Mayer. Mayer going by on the inside through turn 1, and Thomas trying to stay around the outside. He might be able to keep a nose in here, but he's going to back out. Nakatella will give them space behind, so that is Mayer up into P8, Thomas P9, and Nakatella just behind. Go on board with him. 15 is still very close on the back of Mayer. It's tough to follow people closely here. It's tough to really spot your apexes as you come onto some of these corners. And here they come onto the backstretch, and Ian Bertolucci is on the back of that group. So that is an SRG sandwich that we're looking at, a pretty thick one. Bertolucci goes in deep compared to Acatella and Thomas. And he started 11th, still running 11th, so just looking to find some positions here. Oh, and there's a little lunge. Acatella lets him go, and there's a spot picked up for him. Bonvicini gets passed by the 621 again. JB's up into 18th, but a little slow on exit of the chicane, and they're all going to stack up here. Paul's looking at these two behind. A little bit of front end damage for him. He's wondering if he can get a nose in there without causing too much calamity, and instead they're all just going to kind of stack up behind Nicholas, and this is getting really claustrophobic. Mark Darnell is closing up the back of this group, and then Brian Son, is that Brian Son behind him? Yes, it is. So this is P18 to P23 here, these 6 cars. And we really just have a few groups lurking around the track. This group, the big group for P2, that is over there. They're all the way over on the front stretch at this point. McKinsey and Saraleghi trying to break free from Lazan, Carr, Zepka. I imagine Lazan and Carr, this is not a bad situation for them to be in. As long as they can keep up with these two ahead, it's a good fuel-saving opportunity for them coming up to pit stops. Into the chicane, the 21 staying behind JB. With those pit stops looming within the next 10 to 15 minutes, you wonder how much some of these guys will be willing to fight for these positions. Fuel saving could just as easily earn them a spot or two with a little overcut. But we've seen no shortage of people willing to try and fight it out here at Donington. And oh no, Nicholas goes a little deep there. That's going to expose him to Mikulicek behind, and he's going to get alongside. He makes a little bit of space for himself, and now things are going to get tight. They are 2 by 2 coming up into the next corner. Bonvicini on the inside, and he is slow. Darnell goes around the outside, but he goes a little off track, so Paul is freed, and Nicholas pulls back ahead of Darnell. Look at this! That is an incredible little move by Fuad Ridgeless, sticking his nose in there. I thought he was going to fully get by the 21 there for a moment, go on board with him as they come down to the chicane. It was opportunistic. He just did not have the momentum to follow through on it, but he definitely caught the 21 unawares. And now he's got a little bit of momentum, even with the slight run off track there. As they come across the start-finish line, he's got Bonvicini defending and moving back to the braking zone. A little bit of contact in the rear, but in the end, they all go through turn 1 okay, as Mikulicek ahead gets away with P3 in the Delta class. And after all that, it's the 70 escaping from that group, at least for now. Let's see if he can kind of pull away and get closer to JB ahead. If that's the case, then his Delta podium will be much more secure. Speaking of secure Delta podiums, another 5 seconds up the road is Evan Clavijo. And oh no! Oh, I looked away just as Paul went off track. And so much for the secure Delta podium. That is a textbook commentator's curse. And where was he off track? He was off on the right side of the track. He must have oversteered out of that corner somehow. So he's down to P6 in the Delta class, and Zachary Bowman behind misses the chicane a little bit, comes over the curbing, and that is going to expose him to Jason Lynn behind. Look back ahead. Matthew Mayer's under a lot of pressure from David Thomas here. Ever since that pass, he's not been able to put him away, and now around the outside for the 15, but he can't get it done there. And all this is happening. Bertolucci and Acatella losing ground behind. 25 minutes in, 21 laps down. The leader coming across for the 22nd lap of the race now. Gonzalo Fabi has led every single lap of this race. Did not start on pole. Technically started third, or qualified third. Goes wide a little bit there, but qualified third. started second, was first place by turn 4, and he hasn't looked back. But we will look back to the rear of the field where this battle for 20th is heating up a little bit. Bonvicini escaping from Al Rijla and Darnell as they start to battle, looking through the chicane with Darnell. You have to cut over a lot of that painted pit road exit to get a good entry into turn 1. But there's a penalty out there somewhere, so a lot of the drivers don't chance it and really only put half their car out there. Look back to the battle for P2, and this whole field is still very close together, so it'll be interesting to see as pit stops unfold how fuel saving is going for this group. McKenzie, having been leading the group, he's at a disadvantage here. The others will have a much easier time fuel saving, especially the B4D guys and Matt Zepka, as long as he's able to keep up with this group. He's about 7/10 off right now. But especially, you know, James Carr, I know he's great at fuel saving. So seeing him in P5 in a very compressed group like this, I would not be surprised to see him shoot up to the top of that group by the end of the race. This is the closest group on track now. The others are starting to dissipate a little bit. Mayer and Thomas are still running just ahead of Acatella and Bertolucci. So you got 2 4-car groups. A little further back, you have the Fuad Rijla, Mark Darnell, and Brian Son group. And that is JB Dejoux. No, that's not JB Dejoux. That's Bonvicini. He went wide at turn 4. And here comes Al Rijla. He's going to switch to the left, but just doesn't have enough room. It feels like he doesn't have enough room, and tries for the switchback. Bonvicini parks it on the apex. Al Rijla goes wide, and that is going to end that. A bit of a messy fight there. Darnell and Son creep back up to the back of them because of it. Brian Son, he started in 24th, so he's already gained 2 spots in this one. Santiago Castillo is on pit road, and this is within the pit window. This is just an early stop. He's coming in from a bit further up the field. He's having a good day, so he should be out there in a couple seconds if this is a scheduled stop. And there he goes, a little slow out of the box. Let's see where he's going to come out. He should come out in very clean air. If anything, he'll be in a little danger of blue flags, but as long as that doesn't slow him down too much, and it's only Gonzalo, so it'll be interesting to see how this helps him out towards the end of the race. As Gonzalo probably pulls up to the back of him right there. Car right on the back of Lazan. He's within 2/10, no attacking, huge fuel save. Actually goes onto the grass a little bit there. Further back, oh, this is getting close. Bonvicini still defending, and now they all stack up, and Brian Son gets caught out. He gets the worst of that. They all accordioned up, and then Son ran into the back of all of them, and his car, by that point, they'd slowed down enough that it was enough to turn his car, and that's going to give him damage, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him go ahead and pit this lap, since we were inside of the fuel window. See Matthew Mayer still running from David Thomas back here, halfway through this race at Donington Park, and a few drivers starting to come down pit road. Mark Darnell, it looks like all the drivers really that accordioned, at least a couple of them. Mark Darnell, oh no, he picked up a drive-through. So Darnell, a penalty. He has to drive through, and that is probably going to end his race, functionally. At least for the top 20. Jason Lynn is on pit road, but this is scheduled. Our race leader, Gonzalo Fabi, on pit lane. You see John Lazan and Matt Zepka are on this lap. Here come Matthew Mayer, David Thomas, Ian Bertolucci. He almost runs into the back of Thomas. Those two were slow on pit entry, and I think Bertolucci gained a lot of time. right there. So now Logan McKenzie picks up the lead. He and Sarah Leggy are 1 and 2 now, so he'll pick up the bonus point for leading a lap. Edward Gorman, your Delta leader. We haven't talked about him much in the last 10-15 minutes. Spencer Clark is on pit lane. Luzon is off, and he is ahead of Matt Zepka. And now we're going to check on Matthew Mayer. He does get out ahead of David Thomas and Ian Bertolucci. So those three are going to come out all in a row together. JB Dejoux is on pit lane. Spencer Clark pulls off just behind Edward Gorman. Looks like they're going to be about the same distance from each other. Here comes Mark Darnell's actual pit stop. Brian Son comes off, or comes into his stall to pit. JB's off.
Thank you so much, Mitchell.
Cooper Akers is coming out behind him, and you see Fuad Ridgela exiting as well. Now Nicholas Bonvicini he went next. Oh no, that's Manuel Saralegui. So he pitted. McKenzie and James Carr stay out. Mike De Almeida also stays out. So these three cars all saved all the way up to lap 27. It doesn't look like anyone else has been able to do this. So Saralegui and Acatella are on pit road. And Saralegui is out now. And there's Evan Clavijo, or Damon Mitchell. Yeah, Evan Clavijo's in his pit stall. Damon Mitchell pulling in now. We're looking at Logan McKenzie, current leader. Most likely only for this lap. Looking for any strange pit times, but it seems like most people had a clean stop. This would be important for the battle for P2. Both McKenzie and Carr are about to find out just how much fuel they saved out of the final corner. The 01 pulls down pit road. The 19 pulls down pit road. And now there goes Mike De Almeida as well. So here comes Gonzalo Fabi. He's still heading towards the final chicane. McKenzie in his stall. What we're really looking for here is where Saralegui comes out in relation to McKenzie, because he's coming down the chicane, but Gonzalo Fabi, he is on the front stretch, and he retakes the lead. He will have a solid lead towards the end of this race. McKenzie gets out of his stall just as James Carr is starting to creep up to him. Here comes Saralegui, and I think he's going to be behind both of them. And Carr comes out ahead of him as well. So Carr and McKenzie pull off a very impressive fuel save here. McKenzie at the front of that pack, and he's able to get out ahead of Carr, really about the same gap, if not more. I think that's Micah Hendricks in between the two of them, so he'll be under blue flags. Zachary Bowman, I think, is the last car on pit road. So Spencer Clark will retake the Delta lead, and he will start this second stint of the race with a 10-second lead over Evan Clavijo. And then another 10 seconds back is Bonvicini. And you see Zachary Bowman exiting pit lane right there behind Paul and Fuad. And Matthew Mayer is dealing with Connor Acatella. Actually, Connor Acatella, when they come off pit road, Acatella got ahead of David Thomas. Ian Bertolucci still stuck to the back of this group. And Mike De Almeida is, he's 5 seconds up. So this is just a 4-car group with, I think that's Lewis Gilbert there. And oh man, they're having to navigate a little bit of awkward lap traffic. Oh, this is going to get dicey. David Thomas is shoving Connor Acatella alongside Mayer. He will not allow him to tuck back in, and now he dives to the inside. There's some mind games being played by the 15 here. He's trying to get them to fight, and fight they will as they head out of turn 1. Mayer and Acatella. This is the battle for 8th. And Bertolucci says, why not? Oh, but he gets on the grass, and now he goes wide into the gravel. It's a good save, but he's going to be out of that fight. And Mayer tries to chop off the nose of Acatella, and he succeeds and stays ahead. So it's a win-loss for SRG. The Mayer manages to hold on to P8, at least for this moment, but this group is very hungry. And we're looking in on Fuad Arijla, who is chasing Paul Mikulicek for 4th in the Delta class. And that's a top 20 in the race. 24 minutes to go. Everybody has pitted at this point. Lap 27 was the latest that anybody went. And that was only 3 cars that did that. And then only a couple more did 26 even. Excuse me, Zachary Bowman also went 27 laps. So there were 4 cars that went 27. And then another 3 or 4 that went 26. A huge shove into the chicane by Arijla. Oh no, and that may have caused Paul to go wide. Fuad goes wide, and Paul, I think, is wiggling there. They're both wiggling there to communicate, hey, that was a little oopsie. And Lewis Gilbert, lapped car, is going to come out of pit lane just ahead of them. Let them go. That's allowed Zachary Bowman to catch back up to that group. John Lazon's under a little bit of pressure from Matt Zepka here. And this is for 5th. And now that Lazon has lost Carr and Sarah Legge, we're going to see his actual pace versus Zepka. For a time, it looked like Zepka was struggling to hold on to that group. So if he starts to challenge Lazon, it'd be interesting to see that pace difference. We're going to go on board with Acatella because he's been all over the back of Matthew for some time. And out of turn 1. It can be very difficult to pass here with all the sweeping corners. It's tough to get a nose in. It's tough to finish a pass. These cars, of course, the slipstream's not great, so the run down to turn 1 is a little too short. If you're going to get a chance at a pass, it relies on you getting an excellent run out of the chicane. Otherwise, you're in a lot of trouble. You're just not going to be able to do anything. This is the closest battle on track right now, though. And 3 different cars, too. An Elantra, Veloster, Honda.
Micah, if you get up here and get a decent run on me, I'll let you by.
And Lewis, there's only 2 Audis in this race, actually. And those Audis are the Croc Promotions drivers of Lewis Gilbert and Micah Hendricks. And
Micah, want to make $50?
I mean, you just have to say, as James Carr asked Micah if he wants to make a little bit of money, he sits just behind McKenzie and just ahead of James Carr right there. But it's a little bit of a shame to see the Audi, once the only car in the series, reduced to just the Croc Promotions team. And Gilbert and Hendricks representing it well, but it's a bit of a shame to see it. I just watched both Carr and Sarah Legge taken off track behind. Acatella has lost ground and now is under pressure from Thomas. He's going to keep off of him, but something happened there that maybe he attempted to move on Mayer and it didn't go well. But now this is the result. You have the 55 running just ahead of the 15 as the 12 tries to make a break for it. So now there's only a couple battles on track that are active right now. Everyone else is trying to kind of survive. You have John Lazon and Matt Zepka. And actually, here's an interesting thing to note. Mike D'Almeida, whoa, here we go. Connor Acatella has had to let David Thomas through. He picked up a slowdown through the chicane, and that is Thomas up to P9. And James Carr has gone off track again at the same corner, turn 4. He's going to be under serious pressure from Sarah Legge by the end of this race. He's also going to be under serious off-track pressure, honestly. I can't imagine that he is far away from picking up a drive-through. But one thing I was going to note is Mike D'Almeida is not that far off of Zepka and Lazon. At one point, that gap was 5 seconds. Now it's 3.3. And on this lap, they are running about even pace. So if those two start fighting, it could open the door for Mike to get involved. Spencer Clark, his lead over Clavijo stays at a solid 9.7. It's basically what it was when he came out of pit lane. They're running the exact same pace. And same with Bonvicini. The top three in the Delta class are all running the exact same pace. They're just all quite spread out at this point. And really, the Delta battle is here. It's for 4th, 5th, and 6th between Mikulacek, Alrizla, and Bowman. And Lewis Gilbert there as a spectator. Every time these cars come through this chicane, you're looking for something to happen. You're looking for a disaster, honestly, because those sausage curbs are nasty. Do you see the leader just behind this group, actually? Gonzalo Fabi has a 9.7 second gap over McKenzie. I mean, early in the race, McKenzie goes off track, ends up behind Lazan. Those two fight for a bit, and then they all fuel save, and Fabi's just allowed to drive away. And this is going to be, if he manages to get to the end, we have seen, this is not the first time that we have seen an Argentinian leading a race by a mile, looking for their first career win, only to have it ripped away from them at the very end. With Agustin Fernandez is due to mechanical issue. For Gonzalo Fabi, it's looking smooth sailing so far. He's only got 18 minutes left to the end of this race. This could be one of the most dominant first career victories that we have seen in the series. He's led all but 2 laps of the race. And you wonder what could have been with Micah Hendricks, if Micah Hendricks had started the race. And if we look at their best laps, Hendricks actually just went purple on the last lap, now that I'm looking. So he did just set the fastest lap of the race. So they undoubtedly would have been close in terms of pace. I mean, right now, Bobby, McKenzie, and Carr, and Sarah Leggy, they're all about a 10th off of Bobby on average. And then Hendricks is generally running on pace with Fabi, or a little quicker at the moment. Fabi's going to work his way around more lap traffic here, dealing with Jason Lynn. Matt Zepka is pushing hard here to keep up with John. Mike De Almeida still at that 3.8 second gap behind, and always going to get alongside Lazan. And this may be a move up the inside. This is what the 6 behind wants to see, so Matt needs to get this done quickly. He throws it up the inside, but can't get enough momentum to finish the job, so they're going to be too wide coming down to the chicane, and he tucks back in, and Mike De Almeida only gained 2/10 on them through that sequence. We have 2 cars down pit road. It's Fuada Rizla and Paul Mikulacek, and these guys are serving drive-throughs for hitting the incident limit, so they will yield. P4 in the Delta class to Zachary Bowman. They're going to come out. Oh, this is going to cause a bit of a mess. Right into James Carr and Logan McKenzie and Manuel Saralegui. So that actually hurts Saralegui a little bit in his chase for James Carr. It hurts Carr a little bit in his chase of McKenzie, and he has been gaining on McKenzie, who is actually a little bit further off the pace than Carr and Saralegui at this point. So a quarter of the race to go, and the battle for P2 is starting to get a little hotter. Carr's on the back end of McKenzie. And that's by far the closest battle on track. The only other one is still Zepka and Lazan. And this is going to be interesting. These two are coming up on a lot of lap traffic here. Gilbert, that was not Gilbert, that was Hendricks. Hendricks lets them through, so they don't lose any time off of him to Mike De Almeida. But now they're going to have to deal with another group ahead. And that is Fuada Rizla That's Fuad, Paul, and Brian. So it'll be interesting to see how much that slows them down. McKenzie is in a lot of trouble here. He's now in full defense mode. They are completely off the pace. He's taking defensive lines in every corner. And Carr, he is an aggressive overtaker. He will be looking for any space that McKenzie leaves him. I'm also sure that he'll be looking to get him back for what happened to VIR, the season opener. Carr was spun around backwards by McKenzie there. And I think this is the first time they've really had a chance to battle on track since that moment. And then, of course, you have Sarah Leggy lurking behind, also trying to get on this podium. I wonder how much patience he is going to have with Carr before he decides to try and go after McKenzie himself. Lazon's putting a little bit of a gap on Zepka now. And the sun slowly beginning to set. Just 13 minutes left in this contest. Gonzalo Fabi has it all but locked up, his first career win. And he just needs to bring it home. But the podium is anything but locked down. There's 2 spots and there's 3 drivers. And then further behind, there's more we don't know. Will Luzon be able to stay ahead of Zepka for P5? David Thomas remains ahead of Connor Acatella for P10. Ian Berlucci lurks close by. Will there be any more drive-thrus? We've seen a lot of off-tracks and a lot of people having to take drive-thrus as a result. McKenzie taking a defensive-ish line down to the chicane. Pulls back onto the braking zone, and Carr comes right up to the back of him. That's some good car control. And now he's looking left. McKenzie wants him to look left because this is a big sweeping right-hander, but if he stays too shallow, Carr may be able to do something with it. He tries for the over-under, but instead has to run into the back of McKenzie. When he can't see where he's going, it almost cuts over the curb a little too much. And now down to turn 4, McKenzie is still in control of this for the time being. They might run into some more lap traffic before the end of this race. Jason Lynn is, I think, about 5 seconds up the road. And then beyond that, I don't know. They may run into Zachary Bowman. Carr looks like he's just getting so much more work done on the brakes compared to McKenzie, especially in the chicane.
Ayúdame. ¿Sí? No?
And now he is trying to communicate with Sarah Leggy. He's trying to develop strategies against McKenzie, and a little bit of iRacing glue happening there. He gets into the left rear of McKenzie, and I think he almost did pay him back for VIR there. And that would have surely given Sarah Leggy an open path into P2. Staying with these guys because they are full on fighting now. There's still 10 minutes left in this race. McKenzie has to hold on for a whole, how many? That must be 9 laps because these are short laps. We're already up to lap 41 here. There's probably about 8 laps left right now. And then just behind this, I mean, you have Zepka. He's got Lazon on a defensive line. Lazon had a bad run out of the corner. Zepka's not going to attack him out of the chicane. We'll look ahead to McKenzie. He's all the way down to the right side of the track. He's trying to make sure Carr stays on the left side and keeps Carr behind him. Sarah Leggy's just back there waiting for something to happen. Your first place is so far up the road. You just, essentially McKenzie is the prize. Fabi is gone, so you can afford to be patient. Just wait and see what these guys do. While this happens, Spencer Clark continues to hold a 10 or 11 second lead. Oh no, Carr's got a nose in there. A late look, but he just can't, you can get the late look in, but then you don't have the momentum to get off the corner. And McKenzie was able to keep composed enough to make sure to take advantage of that. So Carr couldn't stay alongside him, and now they continue. Saraleghi, oh, this could be interesting. Nope, Saraleghi tucks back in. He was looking for it. So Fabi into turn 1. He now has a 14.5 second lead. He's got this one locked down. I think McKenzie has a bigger gap to turn 1 this time. So he takes the regular racing line. When was the last time we saw him do that? Acatella looking for a good run out of the chicane to attack David Thomas. But I don't think he's going to have the run to turn 1 that he needs. So we look back to James Carr and Logan McKenzie. And that's a big off from Carr. And here comes Saraleghi. If I'm Saraleghi, I'm out of patience now. And he looks right. And this is going to be it. I don't think Carr's going to fight this one too much. Behind, we see Matt Zepka go off track as he tries to keep up with Lazan. And Saraleghi now down the backstretch towards the chicane and onto the front straightaway. He is just under a second behind McKenzie now, and they close a good bit on him there. They gain 3 or 4 tenths on him through the chicane. So all of that they lost through that sequence, they gain right back, and Saraleghi's on the attack into turn number 1. And that is exactly what Carr wanted to see after that sequence. He would have been hoping that the fight started again. We look back at the battle for P6 in the Delta class, and Al Rizla and Michael Lecek are at it just behind Mike De Almeida, who has gone through, and the 70 is going to stay ahead here for P6. Getting the elbows out. The sun has almost completely set beyond the horizon. It's starting to get a bit darker around the track. Just over 6 minutes left. We are still looking at McKenzie's ahead of Saraleghi and Carr. Spencer Clark has a very firm grasp on this Delta victory. He just has to make it to the finish line now. And David Thomas is under pressure from Acatella, and he tells him that he's not going to fight him down to the chicane. He knows he's beat, and he gets by Acatella into P9, and Thomas is going to follow him out. I was hoping that Thomas did not have a drive-through, and I think he just let Acatella by because he knew that Acatella had the run. So they swap positions. McKenzie's still ahead here. They're coming up on that lap traffic now. They're going to reach Jason Lynn before the end of this race. And then I don't know that they're going to see anybody else. Saraleghi's hoping that this creates some kind of opportunity for him. But I think this straightaway is going to be a good opportunity for Lynn to just let the group by. And yes, so that's a bit of a relief for McKenzie, I'm sure. And maybe even for Carr. Saraleghi probably wanted a bit more chaos. Back through the chicane with 5 minutes to go. And McKenzie looks like he's having an easier time keeping Saraleghi behind than Carr. At least for the moment. Zepka is still right behind Lazan. Come on, Matt. Just one send. Just one attempt. Just forget where the braking zone is for a moment. we look back at Bonvicini. He is on the back bumper of Cooper Akers. This is the battle for 18th. Bonvicini sits in that final Delta podium spot and has for a bit. So he's cruising here. And Castillo is on pit road. He pits out of 13th. So this is, 14th. So this benefits Clavijo. It gets him one more spot. This drive-through, it's going to benefit Akers and Bonvicini as well. So the whole Delta top 3 is going to get another spot off of that. Maybe he pitted out of 13th even. But now that puts Clark is 13th, Clavijo 15th. And Luzon was looking defensive, but moves back onto the regular racing line. And these two, if they want to start fighting, it is late enough. Mike D'Almeida is a solid almost 4.5 seconds behind them now. So they're really at no risk of losing P5 or P6 to the 6. McKenzie, in some corner entries, he's been slower than Saraleggi, but on the exits, Saraleggi's just not able to get at him in any way that really helps him attack. Oh, Zepka and Lazan passing lap traffic, and Lazan gets caught out a little bit here. And now it's, Zepka gets caught out. Lynn's gonna let them by. So that's about a half-second gap now. Zepka will have to work to make that up a little. It's a half-second gap from McKenzie to Saraleggi as well. So just over 2 minutes. Gonzalo Fabi has just gone on to the second half of this lap. So there will be 2 to go this time by. Oh, and just ahead, that's Bonvicini fighting Cooper Akers. Both of them are going to be under blue flags here at the end of the race. I wonder if Gonzalo Fabi may just not even try to pass them with just under 2 minutes to go. And I think that's exactly what he's doing, because he's backing out of it, and he's losing a lot of ground to McKenzie. So he's going to play it safe, and I think let Akers and Bonvicini battle it out unless something happens. They may try and let him go here. If you're Akers and Bonvicini, you're probably thinking, wait, can I fight? Can I not? Do I need to let him through? But neither of them want to be the person that lets him by. If I were Fabi, I would just be kind of entertained by this and hoping they don't kill each other. And James Carr is on pit road. He's hit the incident limit, and he has to serve a drive-through, yielding that final podium position to Saraleggi permanently. It'll let Lazan and Zepka through to P4 and P5. Mike D'Almeida moves up to P6. And that's unfortunate. He's going to exit just ahead of these Delta drivers, and that may have caused Fuad Original to go off track.
Oh, no. Sorry, Fuad.
And Carr apologizes for it. He loses the position to Son. And then one of the SRG drivers goes through. That is Matthew Mayer, who is chasing James Carr. Carr emerges 1.2 seconds ahead of him. Gonzalo Fabi comes through the chicane now to take the white flag here at Donington Park Circuit. And in Saraleggi, he is 4/10 off of McKenzie. If he can get by McKenzie, he can make it an Argentinian 1-2, which has never happened in series history. But 4/10 off at the start of the lap, it's going to be a difficult ask. Lazan starts the lap 4/10 ahead of Zepka. Evan Clavijo had to serve a drive-through, but he was so far ahead of his other Delta competitors that he only emerges behind Bonvicini, so he will stay on the podium. And he's not that far off Bonvicini, who had a little slide ahead of him just now. They've got a lap and a half left. He's fighting Cooper. For Gonzalo Fabi, it is a resounding victory. It's a 16-second gap. over some of the best drivers in the series, leading all but 2 laps, led from lap 1. It has been non-stop for the number 3. It's victory number 1 for Argentina. Victory number 1 for Gonzalo Fabi. He comes across the line on lap 50 to win at Donington Park. And we will have to wait a long time to find out who is going to be P2. McKinsey and Sarah Leggy across the line. McKinsey will stay ahead, holding on to P2. Luzon into the final chicane. He holds on to that spot ahead of Matt Zepka, P4. And then Zepka, P5. Mike D'Almeida will finish P6.
James.
David Thomas and Connor Acatella.
That was a lot of fun.
They're barreling towards the final chicane, and Acatella is going to be able to stay ahead of him. He gained 4 spots in this race. Finishes 9th.
Took a lot off track.
Bonvicini and Akers had a photo finish right there, just next to Gonzalo Fabi, and Akers beat him by 9/100ths of a second.
Good race in there for a bit, Jason.
Gonzalo Fabi across victory lane. It's an incredible drive, and it really didn't put a foot wrong all day. Everyone was off tracking at some point. I mean, you saw drivers get drive-throughs and still finish well. James Carr got a drive-through, finished P7. And it feels like a long time coming since he first appeared in the series. It was only a matter of time. And he's so prolific in the officials. It's great to finally have his name on the Alpha Touring Challenge winner list. And for Spencer Clark, it is another Delta victory for the 919. And he extends his new championship lead with this performance. Evan Clavijo 5 spots behind him. Bonvicini 4. Christian Ost was not here. This is huge for him.
A little bit. I had the first pit box, which you can't even get a warning for that.
I think Clark is actually out of fuel there. We will return shortly to get you the final results. We'll take a look at them now. But that is it from Donington Park. What a race. The battle for the lead, not a whole lot going on, but everything behind, it just kept coming and coming. So let's take a look at the final results. Gonzalo Fabi brings home his first career victory. 16.5 seconds is the final margin, ahead of Logan McKenzie and Manuel Saralegui. That is your podium, and I believe it is also the first time that any 2 Argentinians have been on the podium. So that's a 1-3, and then 4th is John Lazon, 5th Zepka, and then you have 3 Canadians in a row. You have Mike D'Almeida, James Carr, Matthew Mayer, and Acatella, David Thomas, Ian Berlucci, Gorman, and Spencer Clark, your Delta winner. He's also the only Delta driver to not go a lap down in this race. Damon Mitchell, JB Dejoux, Cooper Akers, Bonvicini, and Clavijo are the rest of the Delta podium. And then Bowman, Lynn, Mekulicek, Son, Alrijla, Castillo, Gilbert, Rickmeyer, and then Hendricks and Darnell. That is going to do it from here at Donington Park. Next time, it'll be a sprint challenge all the way from the other side of the world in Japan at Twin Ring Mobility Resort, Motegi. We'll see you there. Have a good evening.